Back again with another ChatGPT tier list challenge. You guys seem to be enjoying these types of videos here, so back for more. Alright, we got challenge. Perks only killer tier list. Rank all killers based only on the teachable perks, ignoring their power completely. Rules: ignore the killer's power, only focus on their 3 unique perks and how strong they are. No idols or perk synergies. Judge each killer's perks in a vacuum. Rank from S to D, S being meta-defined perks, D being D being nearly useless. Right, first things first, we got Trapper. Now, Trapper's teachable perks are Brutal Strength, Agitation, and Unnerving Presence. Brutal Strength and Agitation are all around decent perks. Unnerving Presence I think is the best one he has. It works well with Doctor especially. Not too bad, but then nothing too crazy. So I feel like B tier is where this guy is going to go. Next up, we got Wraith. Now, Wraith's teachable perks consist of Shadowborn, Predator, and Bloodhound. To be honest, all of his perks are very mid. To be honest, they're very bad in my opinion. They're nothing too crazy. So, sorry Wraith, but you're going straight up there in C tier. Next up, we got Billy. Now, Billy's teachable perks consist of Enduring, Lightborn, and Tinkerer. Tinkerer is absolutely a very insane perk, even Enduring and Lightborn. Lightborn is basically used against me all the time, every time I use a flashlight, which fair enough. All around, I feel like he is worthy of S tier, so that is where he's going to go. Next up, we got Nurse. Now, Nurse's teachable perks consist of Nurse's Calling, Strider, and Thanatophobia. Realistically here, Strider is probably the worst perk she has. It's very good with Spirit. Strider, it does work with Spirit a lot, especially if you're new to playing Spirit. It will help you out a lot. However, it does get kind of addicting because once you start using it on Spirit, it's kind of difficult to change it. But all around, not too bad. Thanatophobia and Nurse's Calling are actually very good perks here. So, all that said, A tier is where she's going to go. Next up, we got Maya's. Now, Maya's teachable perks consist of Save the Best for Last, Dying Light, and Play with Your Food. Dying Light is absolutely amazing. It's a beast of a perk. I absolutely love it. I use it quite often. Save the Best for Last, this is decent, but nothing too crazy. It works well with some killers, but not all of them. Play with Your Food, you're mainly only using it if you're playing Burger King Myers or Scratchmore Myers or something like that. So, not exactly the most useful perk in the game. So, A tier is where this guy is going to go. Nice. Next up, we got Hag. Now, Hag's teachable perks consist of Hex Rune, Third Seal, and Devour Soap. Realistically here, these perks are always gonna get cleansed because they are all Hex perks, so most likely you won't not get the value of them most of the times. But when you do, Hex Rune is a very good general resting perk. It's not bad. Devour Soap, when you get 5 stacks, it's absolutely gaudy. When you get 3 stacks, you just insta-down survive it. Very good. Then again, unless they cleanse your totems instantly, which 99% of the time that's what's gonna usually happen. Third Seal as well ain't that bad. I've seen a lot of killers using Third Seal nowadays, actually being almost like a meta perk, so all around very decent. However, as I said, that all depends on whether or not your totem gets cleansed. Once it gets cleansed, well, it's gone. So because of that, I will put her up there in B tier next to Trapper. Next up, we got Doctor. Now, Doctor's teachable perks consist of Overwhelming Presence, Monitor and Abuse, and Overcharge. Overwhelming Presence, a little bit of a meh perk. Monitor and Abuse, though, on the other hand, is a very strong perk. I even use it myself. Overcharge, though, nothing too crazy. Like if you're in high ranks, survivors are probably going to know how to hit hard skill checks, so a little bit on the average side there. However, if you are in low ranks, the overcharge will be very useful for you because survivors won't know how to hit the overcharge skill checks, so that can be very helpful. So B tier is where this guy is going to go. Next up, we got Huntress. Now, Huntress' teachable perks consist of Territory Imperative, Huntress' Lullaby, and Beast of Prey. To be honest, the best perk she has is Huntress of Lullaby. That being said, as long as it doesn't get broken, Beast of Prey and Territory Imperative aren't really that good of perks in my opinion. Beast of Prey just gives you a little bit extra blood point. Territory Imperative makes it so you can see survivors when they're going in the basement. So I feel like B tier is where she is going to go as well. Next up, we got Booba. Now Booba's super perks consist of Barbecue, Franklin's Demise, and Knockout. To be honest, all his perks are actually very good. I use Barbecue quite often. I use it in almost all of my killer builds. It's very good. Knockout is an amazing perk. It's essential if you're going for a slugging build or not too bad. Franklin's Demise, well, it's very handy if you're going against a full squad, flashlight, survive with friends. So that's very good. You can pair it up with Lightborn. So I guess he's going straight up there in S tier. Next up, we got Freddy. Now, Freddy's strategic perks consist of Blood Warden, Fire Up, and Remember Me. They're actually not too bad of perks. Fire Up basically makes it so it increases your action speed. The more gens you get done, the more stacks you will get. Remember Me basically makes it so you can open exit gates very slower here. And Blood Warden basically makes it so if you hook someone while the exit gates are open, exit gates gets blocked for 60 seconds, I think. Which is fine. I guess it's not too bad. His perks are mainly endgame based. So all around, not bad. I'm gonna put this guy up there in A tier. Next up, we got Pig. Now, Pig's feasible perks consist of Hangman Streak, Make Your Choice, and Surveillance. Basically, the best perk she has is Make Your Choice. Basically, it makes it so whenever a survivor unhooks another survivor from the hook and you're far enough away, they get exposed for a couple of seconds, so not too bad. Surveillance and Hangman Streak are utterly useless in my opinion. They're very bad. I feel like C tier is where she is going to go. Next up, we got Cloud. Next up, we got Spirit. Next up, we got the Legion. Now, the Legion's perks consist of Iron Maiden, Discordant, and Mad Grit. Iron Maiden works beautifully well with Huntress here. It basically makes it so you open lockers much faster, and if a survivor goes in the locker, they get exposed the moment they come out. Not bad. Discordance makes it so you can see survivors when there are 3 or more working on the gen together at the same time. Mad Grid basically makes you a monster when you're carrying survivors. So all around, I feel like A tier is where he's going to go. Next up, we got the Plaid. Next up, we got Ghostface. Now, Ghostface's 3 super perks consist of Futuristic Chase, I'm All Ears, and Thrilling Tremors. To be honest, I'm All Ears and Thrilling Tremors are very decent perks, especially Thrilling Tremors. It helps quite a lot. Furtive Chase, though, on the other hand, it's a little bit of an average perk, but still not too bad. So A tier is where he is going to go. Next up, we got Demo. Next up, we got the Oni. Now, Oni's super perks consist of Zenchi Tactics, Blood Echo, and Nemesis. To be honest, his perks are not great, but they're not the worst perks either. Xanthon Tactics is basically just a Windows opportunity for killers. Nemesis basically makes it so whenever you get stunned by that certain survivor who is not your obsession, he becomes your obsession. And Blood Echo basically makes it so after you hook a survivor, everyone gets exhausted for like 30 seconds. So sorry Oni, but you're going straight up there in B tier. Next up, we got Deathslinger. Now, Deathslinger's super perks consist of Gearhead, Hex Retribution, and Deadman Switch. Deadman Switch is probably the best perk he has. The rest is kind of average here. So with that said, I feel like B tier is where this guy is going to go as well. Next up, we got Pyramid. Now, Pyramid's 3 super perks consist of Forced Penance, Trail of Torment, and Deadbound. All around, not really the best perks. The best one he has realistically is Trail of Torment. Basically makes it so whenever he breaks a gen, he gains the undetectable status effect until the generator is being worked on again, I think. So all around, very decent perk. However, the Forced Penance and Deadbound are utterly kind of pointless nowadays to use. There's a lot better perks out there. So all around, this guy belongs in B tier. Next up, we got Bleed.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Next up, we got the Twins. And the Twins super perks consist of Oppression, Hoarder, and Coup de Grace, or Coup de Grace. I still don't know how to pronounce the perk's name. Basically here, Hoarder is a useless and trash perk. You don't really ever see anyone use it. Oppression and Coup de Grace are actually very decent here. Coup de Grace basically makes your lunge a million times more long, so that's decent. Oppression as well basically makes so whenever you break a gen, you get like an overcharge effect on that gen you broken, and I think the 3 more gens close to it, so decent. But then again, if you're at higher ranks and survivors know how to hit skill checks, it's gonna be utterly useless to you. You just be wasting your time. All that said, I feel like B tier is where she is going to go. Next up, we got the Trickster. Now, the Trickster's teachable perks consist of Hex, Crowd Control, Starstruck, and No Way Out. Realistically here, I feel like all his teachable perks are actually very, very good. Despite the fact that I just don't like Trickster that much, but I gotta give him props for his teachable perks that are actually very, very nice here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this guy up there in S tier. Next up, we got Nemesis. Next up, we got Pinhead. Now, Pinhead's teachable perks consist of Deadlock, Hex Plating, and Scourge through Gift of Pain. To be honest, his perks are actually very, very good, especially Hex Plating and Deadlock. They're actually very, very useful here. I feel like a lot of killers nowadays actually use those perks because they're honestly just worth using. So I feel like A tier is where this guy is going to go. Next up, we got the Artist. Next up, we got the Unreal. Now, her teachable perks consist of Mercer Storm, Floods of Rage, and Call of Brine. Call of Brine basically works perfectly well with Pop Goes the Weasel, to be honest. It basically makes it so the generator regresses much faster. Very, very good. Merciless Storm is perfect if you're at low ranks and you're going against the baby survivors. Absolutely perfect. Basically, what Merciless Storm does, it grants you like a bunch of skill checks whenever a generator is getting close to completion. So if the survivor doesn't know how to hit the skill check, then they might struggle. Floods of Rage, on the other hand, isn't quite as useful as the other two perks, but it still has its values. So with that said, I feel like A tier is where she's going to go. Next up, we got Dredge. Next up, we got Wesker. Now, Wesker's teachable perks consist of Awakened Awareness, Superior Anatomy, and Terminus. Basically, his perks are kind of average. He's definitely not C or D tier worthy. I feel like that's a bit too harsh. I feel like B tier is where this guy is going to go. Next up, we got the Knight. Now, the Knight's teachable perks consist of Hubris, Hex, Face the Darkness, and Nowhere to Hide. Basically, Hex, Face the Darkness is actually a very, very good perk, but then again, it is also a Hex perk, so a little bit of a mech side there. So I guess A tier is where this guy is going to go. Next up, we got the Skull Merchant. Next up, we got the Singularity. Next up, we got Xenomorph. Now, Xenomorph's teachable perks consist of Rapid Brutality, Alien Instinct, and Ultimate Weapon. Rapid Brutality basically makes it so whenever you hit a survivor, you get a 5% hate, which is like kind of bloodlust in a way, which is not too bad. Alien Instinct and Ultimate Weapon, they're actually also very decent perks, but you don't really see them used that often nowadays. They're not really meta perks or anything like that. So with all that said, A tier is where she is going to go. Next up, we got Chucky. Next up, we got the Unknown. His teachable perks consist of Unbound, Unforeseen, and Undone. There is a lot of uns in this guy. Well, alright, I do feel like his perks are decent. I feel like the best one he has is Undone. I feel like that's kind of underrated there in my opinion. I feel like his perks do have potential as well. So, I feel like A tier is where this guy is going to go. Next up, we got Vecna, or I guess the Lich. His teachable perks consist of Languid Touch, Weave Attunement, and Dark Arrogance. To be honest, I quite like using Languid Touch a lot. It's actually very useful perk. It basically makes it so whenever a survivor disturbs a crow, he suffers from the exhaustion effects, making it very useless to use basically any exhaustion perk, so that helps you out quite a lot when you're playing killer. Dark Arrogance and Weave Atonement, they're good. Weave Atonement is a little bit of a meh perk to be honest, but still decent, it has values. Dark Arrogance is basically a trade-off for you getting blinded more often, but you get a higher volt speed, so it really depends on how you want to play. Me personally, I don't like using it that much. I guess with all that said, I feel like A tier is where he is going to go. Next up, we got Dracula. Last but not least, we got the Houndmaster. Now, her teachable perks consist of All-Seeking Thunder, No Quarter, and Scourge Hook, Jacked Compass. To be honest, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I don't feel like her perks are good at all. I think her perks are kind of useless, but not that useless that I'll put her in C or D to be quite frankly honest. I feel like maybe you can use them in some builds, however alone they're kind of pointless to be honest. So B tier is where she is going to go as well. Anyways, that's been my ChatGPT killer perks only tier list challenge. Some of you are gonna agree with my choice, some of you are gonna disagree. That's always how a tier list goes. Everyone has their own opinion, which is perfectly fine. But anyways, with that said, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys.